Hi, my name's Tim Titchmarsh, IronSpeed MVP for .NET Architect. Welcome to the Advanced Debugging with Visual Studio video. Okay, so we're going to do some advanced debugging in Visual Studio with IronSpeed. I'm using IronSpeed 9.1.1, Visual Studio 2010 and SQL 2012. It doesn't really matter which versions, the same rules apply. So what I've got, or what I've built in IronSpeed, is a very simple one table page application that's based on a user table. It's got my details in there, and there's a problem that every time I try and use the app and edit the information, it comes up with an error, and I need to find out why that is. So let me just show you how that error is manifesting itself. So we're going to go and edit one of the pages, and then I'm going to save, and there's the error, index out of range. So there's something in my code that's going wrong. Now 99.99% of problems you'll come across are down to your coding. Okay, IronSpeed, been around for a few years, resilient, robust, and it works. So any sort of changes that you make tend to be, in my experience, where the problems lie. Okay, so, and I know I've got some custom code in here somewhere. Quite a bit of my applications have custom code, so it's probably likely I've made an error somewhere. So I need to go into Visual Studio. So from within, while that's still running, there we go, from IronSpeed I can launch Visual Studio straight away. It will load up the application. Lovely. So I can also run this now by pressing F5. Visual Studio will now compile and run that application. So I can just sort of prove to you that the error is still there. And then we're going to try and fix it from within Visual Studio. So let me go and edit the information again. Let's just make a change. Press save, and there's the error. Okay, so what do? I can go back into Visual Studio, and on the debug menu there's an option exceptions, and it's really useful. It gives you the opportunity of breaking the code, i.e. putting a breakpoint in whenever there's an exception being raised. Okay, by default that doesn't happen. It goes into the handlers and the handlers handle it. What this does is say, don't handle it, please stop at that point, which is what we want. We want to know dead exactly where that error happened. Okay, so if I go back now and try and save this again with that flag on, okay, so I get something different here. I'm getting a datetime error. Now this isn't the error that we had. Ours was a index out of range error, but it's not a real error. It's just IronSpeed parsing some dates to try and make sure they're valid. Some of them may fail, some of them may pass, but it handles that. That's not a problem. So I can just press F5 and continue looking for the error that might. Here we are, index out of range. Okay. So the error looks like it's that index there that's causing a problem, and that's probably because the record list is empty, doesn't have any items in it. So why is that? Let's look at the call stack over to the right, and we can track back to see where the code has been called from. Okay, as you can see, we're in a couple of base classes. Let's go back a step further. Okay, this is in base user table, one step back before then. Okay, this is in the user record class, and this is where I added a bit of code so that when a record was updated, it would just read in some information. Okay, and it's that line that's causing the problem. Now why is that? It looks fairly okay. I've got a GUID as the ID and false as another parameter. Okay, so let me just, I can see what's going on here. It's either the ID, well the only thing that can be wrong really is the ID is incorrect. So let's go and have a look, see if that's the case, and I can bring up my SQL Server. Okay, SQL Server, there it is. Now I've done a query select on the user table, but as you can see it's still executing, and the reason for that is because we're in a transaction within IronSpeed, and that's blocking Visual Studio, SQL Studio from displaying the results. So let me just go back very quickly. So we suspect this is wrong. I'm going to put a debug, stop debugging, and I go back into Visual Studio, SQL Studio. There we are, and it's now brought back. So here is the record that it should have got. Let me go and see what actually we had. If I just paste that ID in there, so okay, I can see there's an error there, and you can see where it's 686. So I've passed in an incorrect ID, which is the root of the problem. Okay, now of course I've sort of manufactured this error, but in the main you'll get errors where keys go missing, records get deleted, for example, and you'll be trying to access a record that no longer exists, and this is where you get the error. So what I'm saying here is I can correct that by making that last digit a 9. That should then fix my problem. Okay, so I'm going to, full of confidence, turn off my exception, so don't handle that anymore. I'm going to then run the application again. Just get rid of the old error. Page will reload with the new code, and then we're going to try and edit that record. Okay, so here we go. Let's go and change that to a 9. Now when I press save, fingers crossed, we should have no errors. Done. So as you can see, fixed the problem and that didn't take long to find. It was a manufactured error, but those are the type of errors that you get that are hidden in the bowels of your code, or maybe it's in the base classes and you're passing some incorrect parameters or something similar. It could be in a library elsewhere. Now unless you've got the source code, it can be difficult to debug those, but we didn't need to do that in this particular instance. We could go right down to the line of code that caused me the problem. Without that, I would have had to put lots of sort of print statements in my web page to find out where it was, and try and sort of narrow down. Using that very effective flag, I can turn off or turn on the exception handling very easily. Pin down the error. As I said earlier, don't get sidetracked by red herrings, i.e. items that aren't really errors. Stick to the error code, the error message, and then work backwards through the call stack to find out where the error lies, fix the error, retest, redeploy. Well, I hope that's proved beneficial to you. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.